The shocking revelation. The spaceship Orion's Hope floated silently through deep space, its engines humming softly as it moved past a field of glowing asteroids. Inside, Captain Daniel Carter sat in the ship's command room, sipping his coffee. It had been a quiet day. No emergencies, no distress signals, just another routine mission. Then Lieutenant Zyra walked in. Zyra was not human. She was a Xanthari, a tall, wolf-like alien with silver fur and piercing blue eyes. She was strong, fast, and highly intelligent. She had fought beside Daniel in many battles, and over the years they had formed a deep bond of trust and friendship. But today, something was different. Zyra looked nervous. Her ears twitched, and her tail flicked back and forth. She was pacing, something she never did. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Zyra, what's wrong?" She took a deep breath, then said, "Human, we need to talk." Daniel immediately put his coffee down. That sentence never meant anything good. "All right," he said cautiously. "What's going on?" Zyra hesitated. Then she sighed, looking straight into his eyes. "I'm having puppies." For a moment, Daniel just stared. He blinked. Then he laughed, thinking she was joking. "That's funny, Zyra. You almost got me there." But Zyra wasn't laughing. She wasn't even smiling. Her ears drooped slightly. She was serious. Daniel's smile faded. "Wait. What?" "I am pregnant," she said firmly. Daniel's brain stopped working for a second. That didn't make any sense. Xanthari and humans couldn't reproduce together. It was biologically impossible. "Zyra," he said slowly, "that's not possible. I mean, we're different species. I don't even know how." Zyra crossed her arms. "I don't know, but it is happening." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "Okay. Let's take a step back. Who is the father?" Zyra didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "You." Daniel nearly fell off his chair. "What? No. That's impossible. We never. We didn't." He paused, looking at her desperately. "Did we?" Zyra's ears twitched. "Not in the way humans think. Xanthari do not reproduce like your kind. We have something called genetic imprinting. It happens when we form a deep, unbreakable bond with someone we trust completely." Daniel's mouth went dry. "And you imprinted on me?" Zyra nodded. "Yes." The room fell into silence. Daniel felt like the universe had just turned upside down. He had fought in battles, faced terrifying alien creatures, and survived impossible situations. But this was the strangest thing that had ever happened to him. "Okay," he finally said, rubbing his temples. "Let's say this is true. What does it mean? Are you all right?" Zyra hesitated again. "I don't know. This has never happened before. A Xanthari has never bonded with a human at this level." Daniel exhaled. "All right. Then we'll figure it out. We'll run tests, talk to the Alliance doctors." Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. The command screen flashed red. "Incoming hostile ship ist. DTETED." Daniel and Zyra snapped to attention. He quickly checked the scanners. A fleet of warships was approaching fast. Their markings were unmistakable. "The Drar," Zyra whispered, her fur bristling. Daniel felt his stomach drop. The Drar were a ruthless alien species that hated genetic hybrids. If they found out about Zyra's pregnancy, "We have to leave. Now." Zyra took a deep breath, placing a hand over her stomach. "Daniel, I think they already know." Daniel's blood ran cold. How? And more importantly, what were they going to do about it? The enemy in the shadows. The emergency alarms continued to blare inside Orion's Hope, casting a red glow over the command deck. Captain Daniel Carter rushed to the controls, his heart pounding as he assessed the incoming threat. The Drar fleet was fast, too fast. Within moments, the screen showed 5 warships cutting through space like hungry beasts. Daniel's fingers flew across the control panel. Shields up. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Lieutenant Sarah stood beside him, her silver fur bristling. Her wolf-like ears twitched, picking up frequencies that human ears could never detect. Her breathing was steady, but Daniel could tell she was worried. "Sarah," Daniel said, his voice tense, "you said the Drar already know." He turned to face her. "How?" Zyra's piercing blue eyes met his. "I don't know, but the Drar don't hunt without reason. If they're here, it means someone told them." Daniel's stomach turned. "You're saying we have a traitor on board?" Before Zyra could answer, the ship shook violently as enemy fire struck the shields. Sparks flew from the overhead panels, and the lights flickered. "Impact to the rear thrusters," shouted First Officer Malik, the ship's engineer. He was a broad-shouldered man with a cybernetic arm, his fingers dancing over the control panel as he rerouted power. "We can't outrun them like this." Daniel clenched his jaw. They had to move. Now. "Divert power to the main engines," he ordered. "Take us into the asteroid field." Malik hesitated. "Captain, that's suicide. Those rocks are unstable." "So are the Drar," Daniel shot back. "If we stay out here, they'll rip us apart." Zyra nodded. "He's right. It's our only chance." With a deep breath, Malik pushed the controls forward, and Orion's Hope lurched into the asteroid field. Massive space rocks tumbled all around them, some the size of cities. The ship wove through the deadly maze, dodging left and right as enemy plasma fire streaked past them. But the Drar were still on their tail. Zyra gripped the edge of the console, her body swaying with the motion of the ship. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through her stomach, forcing her to her knees. Daniel noticed immediately. "Zyra." He knelt beside her. "What's happening?" She took a shaky breath. "Something is changing. The pregnancy. It's progressing too fast." Daniel's pulse quickened. "What do you mean too fast?" "You just found out." Zyra gritted her teeth. "Xanthari pregnancies are accelerated under extreme stress. And right now, I'm under a lot of stress." Daniel swore under his breath. Of course, this wasn't just about escaping anymore. If Zyra's body was reacting like this, it meant she didn't have much time. They had to find help. Malik's voice cut through the tension. "Captain, I found something. There's an abandoned research station on the other side of this field. We could dock there and figure out what's going on with Zyra." Daniel considered it. "Is it safe?" Malik shrugged. "It's better than staying out here." That wasn't exactly comforting, but it was a plan. Daniel turned to Zyra. "Can you hold on?" She nodded, but her claws dug into the floor, and Daniel could tell she was barely holding it together. He gripped her shoulder. "We'll get through this." But as Orion's Hope approached the research station, something felt wrong. The station was intact, but no lights flickered from within. No distress signals, no life readings, just a massive dark structure floating in the void. Daniel's gut twisted. "This place is dead," Malik muttered. "I don't like it." Daniel didn't either, but they were out of options. With a deep breath, he gave the order. "Dock the ship and stay alert." As the docking clamps engaged, the airlock door slid open with a loud hiss. A cold gust of stale air greeted them, carrying the scent of something old, something forgotten. Zyra stepped forward, her breathing ragged. "We need to be careful. I don't think we're alone." Daniel gripped his weapon. Neither did he. The chase begins. The airlock door of Orion's Hope slid open with a sharp hiss, revealing the dimly lit interior of the abandoned research station. The metal corridors stretched ahead, coated in a thin layer of frost. The emergency lights flickered, casting long, eerie shadows on the walls. Silence filled the air. broken only by the distant hum of life support systems running on low power. Captain Daniel Carter gripped his weapon tightly as he stepped inside, his boots making soft echoes against the steel floor. Behind him, Lieutenant Sarah moved carefully, her sharp ears twitching, her wolf-like instincts on high alert. First Officer Malik followed, his cybernetic arm glowing faintly as he scanned the environment with his tactical visor. "This place is ancient," Malik muttered. "Feels like nobody's been here for decades." Daniel didn't like this. Something was wrong. Their ship's sensors had detected no life signs, yet the station's systems were still operational. Someone, or something, had kept it running. Zaira suddenly stopped. She took a deep breath, her eyes narrowing. "I smell something," she said. Daniel's grip on his weapon tightened. "What is it?" Zaira's tail flicked. Metal. Oil. And something else. She hesitated. Something alive. A cold chill ran down Daniel's spine. "Stay sharp," he whispered. They moved deeper into the station, passing through dark corridors, lined with old, cracked monitors and rusting control panels. Some screens still flickered with static, as if trying to replay old security footage. Then they found the first body. It was a Drathar soldier, his armor torn apart by deep claw marks. His expression was frozen in horror, his body stiff from the cold. Malik cursed under his breath. "I thought you said the Drathar were chasing us, not dying here." Daniel knelt beside the body. "If the Drathar got here first." He looked up at Kyra. "What killed them?" Zaira didn't answer. She was staring at the walls. Deep gashes were carved into the metal, as if something with massive claws had been here. Suddenly, the station's lights flickered. A low, growling sound rumbled from somewhere deep within the structure. Zaira's fur bristled. "We're not alone." Then, the station's emergency systems roared to life. Red warning lights flashed as sirens blared. The old, cracked speakers crackled, and an automated voice echoed through the halls. "Interspecies DTTTED. Sealing all extraterrestrials." Heavy blast doors slammed shut behind them. Daniel spun around. "Malik, override it." "I'm trying." Malik shouted, his cybernetic fingers flying across a control panel. "This system is ancient. It's gonna take time." Zaira suddenly gasped, stumbling against the wall. Her claws scraped against the metal as she clutched her stomach, breathing heavily. Daniel rushed to her side. "Zaira, what's wrong?" Her blue eyes flickered with pain. "It's happening again. The pregnancy. It's accelerating." Daniel swore under his breath. This was bad. They had no way out. Zaira was getting worse, and something dangerous was hunting them in the dark. Then, from the depths of the station, they heard it. A deep, guttural snarl. Something huge was moving toward them. Fast. The metal walls shook as it got closer. Then, a blur of motion. A massive reptilian beast leaped from the darkness, its glowing red eyes locking onto them. Its armored hide was covered in jagged spikes, and its long, scythe-like claws dripped with black fluid. Malik barely had time to yell a warning before it attacked. The creature lunged at Zaira, its claws flashing in the red emergency lights. But Zaira, despite her pain, moved like lightning. She rolled to the side, her reflexes still sharp despite her weakening body. The beast's claws scraped against the wall, leaving deep scars in the metal. Daniel fired his weapon. Energy blasts struck the creature's hide, but it barely flinched. "Captain, we need to move," Malik shouted, still working on the controls. "I can override the doors, but it'll take another minute." "We don't have a minute," Daniel yelled back. The creature roared, its eyes locking onto Daniel now. Then something strange happened. Zaira's body began to glow faintly. A soft, silver-blue aura pulsed from within her, and the creature hesitated. For the first time, it looked uncertain. Zaira noticed it too. Daniel turned to her. "Zaira, what is that?" She clutched her stomach, her breathing heavy. "I don't know, but I think the puppies are protecting me." The creature took a step back, snarling, as if afraid. Then Malik shouted in victory. "Got it. The doors are open." The blast doors slid apart, revealing a narrow corridor leading to the station's escape pods. "Go!" Daniel shouted. They sprinted through the corridor, but the creature let out an ear-splitting roar and charged after them. Zaira stumbled, her legs weakening, but Daniel caught her. Malik pulled out a small detonator and threw it behind them. "Hope this thing still works." A thunderous explosion shook the station as the charges detonated. The force sent them flying through the escape pod doors, and Daniel slammed the emergency release. The escape pod launched into space just as the research station's corridor collapsed behind them. Through the window, Daniel saw the beast roaring in fury, trapped inside the collapsing station. But something about the way it looked at them before disappearing. It wasn't anger. It was recognition. Daniel's chest tightened. That thing knew Zaira, and it wasn't the last time they would see it. Secrets of the Forbidden Planet. The escape pod shuddered as it shot away from the collapsing research station, tumbling through the darkness of space. Inside, Captain Daniel Carter gripped the control panel, forcing the pod into a stable trajectory. Lieutenant Sarah sat beside him, her breathing heavy, her silver fur damp with sweat. Her body trembled, the mysterious pregnancy taking a heavy toll. Behind them, First Officer Malik monitored the screens, his cybernetic fingers moving swiftly over the controls. His usually calm demeanor was shaken. "That thing," Malik muttered. "It wasn't just some random monster. It knew us." Daniel swallowed hard. He had seen the way the creature had hesitated before attacking Zaira. It had recognized something about her. The pod's navigation system beeped. "Nearest habitable planet, X-47, Malik read from the display. "Oxygen levels, stable. Gravity, slightly higher than Earth's. But here's the problem." He turned to Daniel. "It's not mapped. No records, no history, nothing." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "Then why is there a landing beacon transmitting from it?" For a moment, no one spoke. The pod's tiny viewport showed the planet growing larger. It was a world of deep forests, jagged mountains, and mist-covered valleys. Zaira let out a sharp breath, clutching her stomach. Her claws scraped against the seat. "We have to land." Daniel saw pure pain in her eyes. He nodded and engaged the landing thrusters. The pod entered the atmosphere, flames licking the sides as it punched through the thick clouds. The ride was violent, shaking them like ragdolls. The ground rushed toward them, a sprawling jungle of towering black trees and thick blue mist. The pod crashed through the canopy, hitting the ground hard. The impact threw Daniel forward, his vision blurring. Then, silence. For a moment, all he could hear was the distant sound of wind rustling through the alien jungle. Then Zaira gasped. Daniel turned. Her body was glowing again, that same faint silver-blue light pulsing from within her. "I can feel them," she whispered. "They're awake." Daniel's blood ran cold. "The puppies?" he asked cautiously. Zaira nodded, her blue eyes flickering with something beyond fear. "No," she said. "Something else. Something watching us. The jungle's secrets." Daniel forced open the pod's hatch. A wave of humid air rushed inside, thick with the scent of damp earth and something faintly metallic. The jungle stretched endlessly in all directions, filled with alien plants that pulsed with soft bioluminescence. Strange, unseen creatures chirped and hissed in the distance. Malik stepped out cautiously, his visor scanning the surroundings. "I'm picking up energy signatures," he muttered. "Not natural ones. This place, it's not abandoned." Zaira staggered forward, her body moving almost on instinct. She turned her head, ears twitching, then pointed. "There," she said. Daniel followed her gaze. In the distance, barely visible through the mist. Massive stone ruins loomed between the jungle trees. They were ancient, covered in strange markings that glowed faintly in the dim light. Daniel frowned. What the hell is this place? Zaira suddenly winced, gripping her side. The light around her body flared brighter, and for a moment, Daniel swore he saw shadows shift in the jungle, like something responding to her. "We need to move," Malik said. "We don't know how long we have before the Drar track us here." Daniel nodded. "Weapons ready. Stay close." The ruins of the ancients. The team moved carefully through the thick jungle, their weapons drawn. Every step was met with whispers, not from any living being, but from the wind, carrying echoes of something long forgotten. The ruins were even larger up close. Towering stone walls, covered in strange glyphs, rose toward the sky. The architecture wasn't human, nor Drar, nor anything Daniel had ever seen. Then Zaira stopped. Her breathing became erratic. Her claws dug into the soft earth. "Zaira?" Daniel asked, stepping closer. She lifted her gaze. "The writing," she whispered. "I can read it." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. "What?" Zaira stepped forward, running her claws over the glowing symbols. As she touched them, they reacted, flaring to life with a silver glow, the same color as her body's strange aura. Malik took a sharp breath. "Captain, this is ancient Zenthari script." Daniel turned to Zaira. "But you said Zenthari history was wiped out during the war. Your people don't have records older than a few hundred years." Zaira nodded. "That's what we were told. But this," she swallowed, "this is millennia old." The symbols rearranged, forming new patterns. And then, in a voice that echoed from the stones themselves, a message spoke. "The hybrid is the key. The cycle begins anew." Daniel's skin prickled. He looked at Zaira, whose hands were shaking. Then, a deep rumble shook the ground. Malik spun around, his visor flashing warnings. "We've got incoming." From the jungle shadows, massive figures emerged. Towering, armored beings, their bodies reptilian, their glowing red eyes locked onto Zaira. They looked just like the monster from the station. But there were dozens of them. Daniel raised his weapon, heart pounding. "Zaira, tell me you have an answer for this." Zaira's eyes flashed silver, and for the first time, a new voice spoke from her lips. Not hers. Something older. "They are not enemies. They are guardians." The creatures stopped, staring at her. Then they knelt. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Malik whispered, "Captain, I think she just activated something ancient." Daniel exhaled sharply. "Yeah. But the real question is, what happens now?" Above them, the sky shifted, revealing the glow of incoming ships. The Drar had arrived. The war for Zaira's unborn children was about to begin. Betrayal and war. The air around them hummed with an energy Daniel Carter had never felt before. The massive reptilian beings knelt before Lieutenant Zaira, their glowing red eyes locked onto her with something between reverence and obedience. The jungle whispered as the strange, silver-lit glyphs along the ruins pulsed in response to her presence. Zaira's breathing was shaky. She held her stomach, eyes flickering between pain and confusion. Daniel gripped his weapon tighter. This didn't feel right. Above them, the Drar warships cut through the sky, their engines glowing like burning embers against the dark clouds. The low hum of their propulsion sent a deep vibration through the ground. Malik's visor flashed warnings. "Captain, we've got multiple inbound. They're circling us, locking down the area." Daniel clenched his jaw. They didn't have much time. Then one of the reptilian creatures, the largest among them, slowly rose to its full height. It towered over them, covered in jagged black armor, its claws long and curved like blades. It let out a low, rumbling growl, then spoke. The hybrid must be protected. The voice was deep, ancient, and filled with purpose. Daniel exchanged a look with Zaira. "Who are you?" Daniel asked, lowering his weapon just slightly. The creature studied him before answering. "We are the Sentinels. We were created to guard the next evolution." Its glowing eyes shifted to Exira. "You carry the Firstborn. You are the beginning of the new cycle." Exira swallowed hard. "What does that mean?" Before the creature could answer, a loud explosion shook the ruins. The Drar had landed. From the jungle, black armored soldiers emerged, weapons raised, moving in formation. Their warships hovered just above, blocking out the sky. Daniel raised his rifle, stepping in front of Tyra. This was it. A voice echoed across the battlefield, carried by the Drathar's transmission systems. "Surrender the hybrid, and you will be spared." Daniel's blood ran cold. The Drathar weren't here to negotiate. They were here to exterminate. A betrayal unveiled. The Sentinels did not move. They stood like living statues, watching the Drathar approach. Malik, scanning the forces, muttered, "This isn't just an attack." They knew exactly where to find us. Daniel felt a sinking dread. Which means, before he could finish, a single shot rang out. The Sentinel leader collapsed, black blood spilling onto the ruins. The shot had come from behind them. Daniel spun around, and his breath caught. Malik's weapon was raised, smoke still rising from the barrel. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Zyra's eyes widened. Malik. Malik's expression was cold. "I had no choice." Daniel's grip tightened around his gun. "You sold us out." Malik's cybernetic fingers twitched. "They offered me a deal. Help them. And they'd let me live." He took a deep breath. "They don't lose, Carter. You know that. I was just choosing the winning side." Daniel felt rage boil inside him. "You bastard." Malik's eyes flickered, but before he could speak, the Drathar opened fire. The battle for the Firstborn. The jungle erupted in chaos. The Sentinels charged forward with primal fury, their massive claws tearing through Drathar ranks. The ruins became a war zone, with explosions lighting up the misty air. Daniel grabbed Sarah's arm. "We have to move." But Sarah wasn't listening. Her breathing was ragged, her body glowing brighter than ever. The strange energy inside her pulsed, making the air feel heavy. I can feel them," she whispered. "The Firstborn. They're speaking to me." Daniel didn't know what that meant, but he didn't have time to ask. A Drathar soldier lunged toward them, and was suddenly ripped apart by a blast of silver energy. Daniel's eyes widened. The energy had come from Exira. What the hell? But there was no time to think. Malik had vanished into the battlefield, and the Drathar were pushing forward, overwhelming the Sentinels. Daniel raised his rifle, firing round after round, covering Exira as she stumbled toward the ruins. Then, above them, the Drathar mothership opened its massive doors. Something was coming. Something big. A deep mechanical growl filled the sky. Then, it dropped. A towering black armored war machine, nearly 20 feet tall, with 4 glowing red eyes and clawed hands that burned with plasma energy. Daniel's heart stopped. The Drathar had brought a primarch, one of their deadliest warriors. The primarch stepped forward, its glowing gaze locked onto Exira. "The hybrid belongs to us." Then, it charged. Daniel grabbed Exira and threw both of them aside as the massive warrior slammed into the ground, leaving a deep crater where they had stood. Exira gasped, the energy inside her flaring. I can't hold it back anymore." Daniel held onto her as the glow from her body intensified. The glyphs around them blazed to life, sending pulses of power through the ruins. The Sentinels, locked in battle, stopped, their eyes snapping toward Exira. Then, in one unified voice, they spoke. "The awakening has begun." The ground beneath them shook violently. The Drathar forces hesitated. Even the Primarch took a step back. Daniel felt it, too. The air was alive, charged with something ancient. Exira's eyes snapped open, glowing like twin suns. Then, In a voice not her own, she spoke. I am not your hybrid. I am your end. A wave of energy erupted from her, blasting outward. The Drathar soldiers were thrown back like ragdolls. The primarch let out a roar of fury before the energy ripped through its armor, sending it crashing to the ground. The ruins cracked. The jungle trembled. And Daniel realized the truth. The Firstborn weren't just a new species. They were something far, far greater. And the universe was not ready for them. The final stand. A shockwave of silver energy exploded from Xyra, spreading outward like a violent storm. The ruins trembled. The jungle groaned as trees bent under the force, their bioluminescent leaves flickering erratically. The Drathar army never saw it coming. Soldiers were flung back like ragdolls, their armor shattering under the raw energy. Even the towering primarch, the war machine built to withstand the might of entire fleets, staggered under the force. Sparks flew from its joints as it struggled to remain standing. Daniel Carter, still gripping Xyra, felt the charge in the air. His hair stood on end, his body locked in place as the sheer power of the Firstborn surged through the battlefield. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the energy faded. Xyra collapsed into Daniel's arms. Her fur was damp with sweat, her breathing ragged. The glow in her eyes dimmed, but something new remained, a presence, an awareness that hadn't been there before. Daniel held her close. Xyra, what just happened? She struggled to catch her breath, her body weak from the sudden outburst of power. They woke up, she whispered. The Firstborn. They're inside me, but now they're awake. Daniel swallowed hard. This was beyond anything they had ever faced. Xyra wasn't just carrying the Firstborn. She was their conduit. The Drathar regroup. Across the battlefield, the Drathar forces were reeling from the blast. Some were already retreating, recognizing the battle had shifted against them. But the primarch was not so easily defeated. The towering black-armored warrior rose from the rubble, its molten red eyes blazing with fury. It had survived the Firstborn's awakening. And it was angry. With a roar that shook the ground, it activated its plasma weapons, twin cannons emerging from its forearms. The heat radiating from them melted the stone beneath its feet. Daniel gritted his teeth. They weren't out of this yet. The sentinels, sensing the danger, roared in response and charged forward. Their massive reptilian forms collided with the Drathar warriors, talons and plasma blades clashing in a violent, desperate struggle. Malik, traitor, coward, and opportunist, was nowhere to be seen. He had vanished during the chaos, likely retreating to the Drathar command ship. Daniel didn't care. Right now, all that mattered was survival. He lifted his weapon and fired at the primarch, but the energy blasts merely bounced off its reinforced armor. Xyra, despite her exhaustion, staggered to her feet, her eyes locking onto the approaching behemoth. He wants me, she said. Daniel's stomach dropped. We are not giving you up. Xyra's gaze didn't waver. I don't think we have a choice. The primarch moved fast, faster than anything that big should. It closed the distance between them in seconds, raising a massive plasma fist to strike. And Tyra raised her hand. The air cracked. A pulse of raw power shot from her palm, slamming into the primarch's chest and sending it skidding back, leaving deep trenches in the ground. Its armor sizzled, cracks forming along its plating. The Drathar warlord let out an unholy roar, its voice filled with rage. But this time, it was afraid. The Firstborn's power. Xyra stood tall, the glow of the Firstborn returning stronger than before. Her fur shimmered like liquid silver, her eyes burning with an otherworldly light. Daniel took a step back, awestruck and terrified at the same time. Xyra, what's happening to you? She turned to him, her expression unreadable. I can feel them. They're not just inside me anymore. Her fingers flexed, the air around them shimmering. They're part of me. Daniel's throat tightened. She wasn't the same Xyra anymore. The Firstborn weren't just waking up. They were becoming her. The war ends in fire. The primarch roared one last time, and charge. Xyra didn't move. She lifted her hand, and the ruins responded. The glyphs across the ancient structures lit up, sending cascading waves of energy into the sky. The jungle trembled. The air grew thick with electricity. Then, a column of pure silver light erupted from Xyra's chest. It speared through the primarch, piercing its core in an instant. The monstrous warlord let out a single agonized scream. Then its body shattered into 1,000 glowing fragments. The remaining Drar soldiers panicked. They had just witnessed the impossible. Their strongest warrior, their leader, had been destroyed with a single attack. Some fled back to their ships. Others dropped their weapons, their fear overriding their loyalty. The Drar had lost. The aftermath. As the dust settled, Daniel rushed to Xyra's side, catching her before she collapsed. Her eyes were unfocused, her body drained from the power she had just unleashed. Xyra, stay with me. She gave a weak smile. I think it's almost time. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew exactly what she meant. The Firstborn were coming. The sentinels, still kneeling, raised their heads toward the sky, as if waiting. Then, far above, the Drar fleet made a final decision. A massive final barrage of plasma missiles descended toward the planet. If they couldn't win, they would destroy everything. Daniel clenched his fists. They weren't going to make it. But Xyra's fingers twitched. And then she spoke one final command. The sentinels roared in response. The glyphs burned brighter than ever. And a protective barrier of pure light exploded from the ruins, stretching across the entire sky. The missiles impacted, but never reached the ground. One by one, they disintegrated upon contact with the barrier, their deadly energy absorbed and redirected. The Drar, seeing their last effort fail, had no choice. Their remaining ships turned and flowed into the darkness of space. The war was over. A new beginning. Daniel held onto Xyra, her breathing slow but steady. Above them, the barrier faded, revealing a sky that was finally clear. The sentinels remained kneeling, their silent vow unbroken. Then, Xyra gasped, her body glowing once more. Daniel felt his heart stop. It was time. The Firstborn were ready to enter the world, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The rise of a new species. A strange silence settled over the battlefield. The jungle no longer whispered. The air no longer trembled. The ruins stood still, bathed in the soft glow of the glyphs that had once pulsed with raw power. The Drar fleet had fled, their warships vanishing into the darkness of space, leaving behind their dead and the shattered remains of their once unbreakable warriors. The war was over. But for Captain Daniel Carter, the battle was far from finished. He knelt beside Lieutenant Xyra, who lay half-conscious, her silver fur damp with sweat, her breathing shallow. The once powerful glow that had burst from her body had faded to a mere flicker, but something else had replaced it. A pulse. Not just from Xyra, but from within her. The Firstborn were coming. The birth of something beyond. Daniel swallowed hard, gripping her trembling hand. Xyra, talk to me. Her eyes fluttered open. The soft glow in them wasn't just light, it was awareness. Something deeper, something not just hers anymore. I can hear them, she whispered. They're not afraid. Daniel wasn't sure if she was talking about the Firstborn or the sentinels, who still knelt around them like silent guardians. But he knew one thing. Something was about to happen that would change the entire galaxy. Malik, still gripping his wounded side after the battle, staggered toward them, guilt shadowing his face. He had betrayed them, but he had also fought to survive. He didn't speak, but he didn't need to. His face said everything. Daniel ignored him. Right now, nothing else mattered but Xyra and the new life about to enter the universe. Then, suddenly, A blinding light burst from Xyra's body. It was not painful, not violent, but pure. Daniel had fought in wars. He had seen destruction, chaos, the worst of what life could offer. But this was something sacred. The glyphs across the ruins pulsed in sync with Xyra's heartbeat. The entire planet seemed to react, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Xyra gasped, clutching her stomach as the energy coalesced around her. Then, in a single, silent explosion of light, the Firstborn arrived. The first of their kind. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Floating in the air before them were three beings, glowing softly, suspended in the golden light of the ancient ruins. They weren't Syntheri. They weren't human. They were something else entirely. Their forms shifted like liquid silver, their features half familiar, yet utterly alien. Their eyes, pure energy, endless knowledge, studied Daniel, Xyra, Malik, and the Sentinels with something beyond comprehension. Xyra, weakened but still alive, looked at them with awe. "They're beautiful," she whispered. One of the Firstborn slowly descended, stepping lightly onto the ground before Xyra. It reached out, gently touching her forehead. The ruins reacted instantly. The energy surged through the air, connecting all of them: Daniel, Xyra, Malik, the Sentinels, and even the dying planet itself. And for the first time, Daniel understood. The Firstborn were not just new life. They were the key to something ancient, something lost long ago. They were the next step in evolution. The choice. The Firstborn turned to Daniel. Despite their alien form, he felt their message more than he heard it. "You saved us." Daniel swallowed. "I didn't do anything." Xyra, still trembling, smiled weakly. "You did. You gave us a chance." The Firstborn looked at the Sentinels, who remained kneeling. Then, in unison, the ancient creatures rose to their feet, not as warriors, but as something new. Protectors. One of the Firstborn touched the air, and the space above them rippled. A vision appeared, one of worlds burning, fleets clashing, entire civilizations teetering on the edge of destruction. Daniel's stomach twisted. The war isn't over, he realized. Xyra nodded. The Drathar will come back, and they won't be alone. Malik, still silent, finally spoke. They're afraid of what the Firstborn mean, of what they'll become. He hesitated. Of what they'll change. Daniel looked at the Firstborn. "What do you want?" For a moment, there was no answer. Then, to live. Daniel exhaled. That was all they wanted. Not power, not war, just the right to exist. And the galaxy wouldn't allow it. The Firstborn turned back to Xyra, their light enveloping her, healing her wounds, restoring her strength. She stood up, looking more alive than ever. "They're not just ours," she said softly. "They belong to the universe now." Daniel nodded. He had made his choice long ago. The dawn of a new era. As the last remnants of the Drathar fleet disappeared from the sky, Daniel turned to the Firstborn. "You're free now," he said, "but freedom comes with a price. You're going to have to fight for it." The Firstborn didn't move, but Daniel felt their understanding. The Sentinels turned, facing the jungle. They had spent millennia waiting. Now, they had a purpose again. The Firstborn rose into the sky, their silver forms shimmering against the dark clouds. And for the first time, Daniel felt hope. The war wasn't over. The real battle was just beginning. But now they had something the Drathar never expected. Not just warriors. Not just a new species. A future.